Colleagues, we were trying to wait for the last person, but we don't have that much time, so we are going to get started. So everybody come to order. Okay.
So the first bill this morning is Senate Bill 444, which is the Transforming Manufacturing in a Digital Economy Work Group.
Excuse me, we can't hear. It's difficult to hear through these masks anyway, and then if we're talking over each other. So we all need to listen to the analysts. Thanks.
There are amendments to the bill. On page 304, we add 3 members, one each proposed by the bill sponsor, Senator West, and Senator Reedy and Senator Kramer. And then the final matter is the entity required to staff the work group. After the last voting session, we contacted the President's office, and we have been cleared to vote on the bill as amended with the Department of Commerce in order to align with the bill as it passed the House.
Move favorable.
Second.
I thought we voted again.
Okay. All in favor, do you want to, let's take a simple way, let's raise our hands.
As amended.
As amended, that's right.
Okay.
No.
No.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Thank the Lord and pass the succotash.
Okay. If you're opposed. Okay. All right. Okay, that's that one.
Next? Am I on? Okay. The next bill on your list is was held from last week. It's Senate Bill 746. This is community college. This is collective bargaining and all the authorizes collective bargaining in all the community colleges in the state of Maryland. Currently, three community colleges plus Baltimore City Community College, which is actually a state agency, has collective bargaining rights for their employees. This would bring them all in under the same piece of under the same part of the law if this is passed and enacted. Briefly, in summary, since we went through the bill last week, you have a reprint in front of you, which is almost the same as what you had last week, except there's an additional sponsor added. That would be Senator Kelly. But the rest is the same as explained. So first, the bill exempts Baltimore City Community College from the provisions of this law for their faculty and non-faculty until 2024. It delays implementation. Otherwise, it delays implementation by size of the community college. And if you go to page page 6 of the reprint, you'll see how it's broken out. So for the first, in the middle of the page, for those 1 through 8, collective bargaining will start on September 1st, 2022. And for the remainder, under number 2, collective bargaining will start on 2023. So this is when the whole process would start for conducting an election, designating an exclusive representative, etc. In the back of the bill, which we don't have to go through right now, there's a further delay regarding bargaining over wages by these groupings you have on page 6. So for the top 8, bargaining over wages would start on July 1st, 2023, and for the bottom 7, bargaining over wages would commence on July 1st, 2024. The bill came in with 6 bargaining units. There's an amendment which is further on the next page, and unnumbered page, and then to page 7, which reduces the number of bargaining units from 6 to 4. There would be 1 for full-time faculty, 1 for part-time faculty, and 2 for non-exempt employees from the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act. Otherwise, the bill just establishes procedures for elections, what is to be bargained for, and all the other aspects of collective bargaining.
Move favorable on the amendment.
Second.
And Senator Hershey has an amendment also. And that's there's two additional amendments in front of you. One is from Senator Reedy, and the other one is from Senator Hershey. Senator Reedy is going to defer to Senator Hershey's amendment, and he can explain his amendment.
Thank you, David. So before you is an amendment that was discussed a little bit. We've heard a lot of news on this bill, Madam Chair, that all of the county executives that were affected by this have okayed this and approved it. Well, that's simply not accurate. Cecil County has a county executive. They have not weighed in on support of this. Wicomico County has a county executive. They have not weighed in support of this. In fact, they are opposed of this piece of legislation, as are many of the other counties that provide that third tier, that third prong of funding for community colleges. Obviously, everybody knows that it's funded by the state, the local governments, and the students through their tuition. And so this amendment that I have here has basically two parts. The first part is that CADE must be fully funded, and that's the 29% of the general fund appropriated. That language is what CADE is, and this says that first and foremost, in order for this to go through, CADE must be fully funded. The second part is if the college is supported by a single county, and again, that's important to know. There's many that are supported by single counties that certainly have enough money to fund this. I've mentioned Montgomery County before. They have a $6 billion budget. A couple $100,000 at the community college there is just a rounding error for them. And in the case of other counties, this is a substantial part of their budget that they have to use to fund these community colleges. So if it's supported by a single county, then either the legislative body of that county would have to vote to approve this, or the county executive. And then the second part of this, again, CADE having to be fully funded, would say that if it's a regional community college, so for instance, the other one that's in my district, Chesapeake College, is funded by 5 different counties. And any cost increases that are a result of this legislation would have to be borne by 5 other counties or the students. And so this would just have to say that the legislative bodies of those 5 counties, or the multiple counties that contribute into the community college, would have to vote to agree to this. And I just think that this is fair. Again, we've delineated that there are certainly 2 different types of community college, those bigger ones that are funded by much larger counties, and those in the rural areas that frankly struggle to provide this excellent educational opportunity for a number of the citizens and students that live in those areas. We just don't want to make sure that these community colleges go by the wayside, or that they end up having to cut other areas in order to make this change for eventually what will be seen as just higher benefits and compensation. So, Madam Chair, with that, I just ask that we accept this amendment that allows the counties to have a little bit of say in the funding of this.
Senator Benson and Senator Kramer.
Yes. I want to just ask a question. Could you go back and explain to us again amendment number 1, the first part?
Senator, my understanding is that just means that the CADE formula must be fully
funded. It says
funded.
the state provides to a public employer an amount equal to at least 29. Can you explain that again to us so that I can get a better understanding?
Yes, Senator, from what I understand, that is the formula that is used to drive CADE funding. And CADE is the funding that's in the budget for the community colleges. And this is just the language that is used to determine that. So in a sense, all this is saying, because in the budget that we're currently looking at, CADE is not fully funded. Now, we have talked to the chair of B&T, and I understand that they will be making those changes. The House and the Senate have both agreed to fully fund CADE. So that's just the starting point of this amendment, to say that CADE must be fully funded. So what it's saying is the states have done their job. Okay, the states have to come in and they said, okay, we're going to fully fund community college education through the CADE formula. And now the next step is to say, can the counties get on board with being able to provide the funding as well, with the whole goal of not having to raise tuition for students.
Okay, Senator Kramer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would ask the committee to resist this amendment. Basically, it puts us back in the exact same posture we're in right now. This issue has been before the legislature for, I don't know, I think a decade now. And the bill without this amendment is a policy change that our legislature is making with regard to providing bargaining opportunities for these community colleges across the state, not just in this jurisdiction or that jurisdiction. Over here, it's okay to have collective bargaining, but if you're from that part of the state, sorry, you're out of luck. So it would put us right back to where we are right now. We might as well not pass the bill if we adopt this amendment. So I also think there has been a tremendous amount of focus exclusively on this notion that there's this boogeyman of outrageous wages that are going to force our students to no longer be able to afford tuition, and these poor jurisdictions are going to be bankrupted. The fact of the matter is, this goes well beyond the issue of just wages, and I would proffer to the committee that if there is some change in what those wages may be, it is not going to be of a grand scale in nature that these jurisdictions will be bankrupted and our poor students will not be able to afford their tuition. Again, we should resist the amendment and move forward on the bill.
Senator Reedy, and then I do have a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The comments from my friend from Montgomery County, there's a certain, I think, perspective that comes from living in and representing one of the wealthiest counties in the country. And I think that's a problem we have in the General Assembly is we have some very large, very well-to-do counties that have a lot of money where another $1 million or $1.5 million or $2 million may not seem like a big deal. I can just tell you practically in Carroll County, our community college, I'm a graduate of it. I'm very active in in understanding what happens there. They've been dipping into their foundation, the funds they raise to help keep tuition relatively level for the last few years. A few years ago, I worked with Senator Edwards, and I also worked with some senators from other jurisdictions, larger jurisdictions, in the Budget and Tax Committee to address a concern where small colleges were given a little bit of extra money to help offset some of the cost of having a facility where they'd have declining enrollments. We got a little bit of extra money every year for community colleges in the so-called small community colleges. For Carroll County, it amounted to about $400,000 more a year that they got. And that's a lot of money for my community college. It was about the same amount, I think, for Cecil and some others. If this goes through, the estimates at my community college are basically that will wipe away that $400,000 to $500,000, and it'll be gone. And that is going to come, it has to come from somewhere. And, the letter from Cecil County I thought was very good, and it pointed out that basically, at least for Cecil, and I think the Carroll percentage is very similar to this, the county funds about almost 40% of the community college, the state funds about 32%, and the students fund the rest. So we're sitting here at the state level saying, with this bill, it's saying that, well, you can just deal with it, because we're saying these are the rules, and we want to have everybody be unionized for being professors. And look, it can sound it's very easy for us to pass bills and not really have to worry about an extra $1 million here or there. But for our counties, it's a big hit, and it's going to come directly out of paying more tuition. There's just no two ways about it. And we want, I think, the General Assembly, maybe I'm wrong, I think most of us in this room probably agree, we want strong community colleges. It's how we can get more kids into college, be more affordable, have less student debt. So I would ask for some courtesy and support for this amendment. I support the amendment. And, putting aside how any of us feel about unionization or collective bargaining, this is really a larger issue at this local level, I think. And so that's why I support the amendment.
Thank you. Colleagues, my take on this is that a good part of what will probably come out of collective bargaining will be about people's working conditions. And at all of our colleges, the 4-year and the 2-year, that is a problem right now. If you want the students in our various counties, and even in those counties that are struggling more fiscally, to get the best for their students, you need people who are empowered to be there to teach them, to guide them, and so on. When we, in many of our community colleges, have people carrying around their coats and their briefcases all day, which is really what is happening. They don't even have a dedicated desk or a dedicated phone. The students don't get what they should get when they're trying to reach a person or to get a question answered about the homework assignment they missed, or to let them know that they've got a major reason why they need assistance in order to get an assignment done. It is a problem. So we have in Maryland, and I know I've spent a lot of time in Maryland higher ed, almost 50 years, we have a problem. As long as working conditions in any of our public institutions, including community colleges and four-year colleges for that matter, do not deal with the working conditions, because when the staff does not have adequate working conditions, the students aren't served well. We need the students to come out and be top grade. We need them not to be despondent because they can't reach anybody because the person is at a different location every week, or needing to sit perhaps somewhere other than in an academic building, carrying all of their belongings, where you can't even have a private conversation between the instructor and the student. So I think we should think about all of that. I won't say more, but I think we shouldn't just put emphasis on cash payouts, which haven't been bargained for yet, but to think about working conditions. Okay, Senator Hershey.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I apologize, Senator Kramer distracted me a little bit, but thank you. I do want to briefly comment on Senator Kramer's statement that this is just a policy change. Obviously, it's a little bit more than that. There are certainly implications, and you discussed some of them, I guess, from the positive side, but that's also to kind of say that the working conditions are not up to par in some of these community colleges, and I simply haven't heard that. I simply haven't heard that, there are so many things that we could do better to provide a better education. I think at least the community colleges that I'm aware of are doing an outstanding job in educating students that are taking a different career path than maybe what was normal or what was suggested before. So, there are a lot more implications than just policy changes. And to say it's not about wages, I mean, the bill even says wages, hours, or other terms. That's what they're going to bargain on. So wages and hours are basically compensation. Other terms, Madam Chair, I guess if what you're saying is that they need an office or they need somewhere to put their briefcase down or something like that, I guess that's something that might be needed. But I certainly wouldn't say that there's horrible working conditions in these community colleges. I just think that we're going to change our policy based on the fact that we think that there's bad working conditions just doesn't seem appropriate. And I do want to, again, shout out that these community colleges are doing an outstanding job. And all that's going to happen as a result of this is that salaries are going to go up. We're not going to get any new, faculty as a result of this. It's the same faculty that will just get paid either, more money or maybe get some different type of working conditions. But nothing's going to change from that perspective. It's going to be the same educators that are there because they want to educate these students. And so I just think rather than putting ourselves in a position for a simple policy change, that we might end up raising tuition on students. And again, my colleague says that that's not going to happen. That's absolutely what's going to happen. That's what this bill is all about. is spending more money on employment. That's what this bill is. So if you're going to spend more, there's only three ways to make it up. Either state's going to provide it, the counties are going to provide it, or the students are going to have to provide it. So it's not needed, and that's why I said if with this amendment, we just give the opportunity back to the counties to decide whether or not they think this is in the best interest of the students that they're educating. Thank you.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and call for the vote? We all have perspectives on it, and ultimately we don't have endless time either. So if you're in favor of the amendment,
with the original. We didn't vote.
no, we didn't.
We did not
Sure
vote
didn't.
on the original amendments.
Well, that's what I was going to ask us to do, to vote on this amendment.
No, the original amendments are what I moved the motion on, Madam Chair.
Yeah, or you're correct. You're correct.
We had a favorable and a second on the original set of amendments.
Okay, all right. On the original amendment, if you're in favor, please raise your hand. Okay.
And now I would move unfavorable on Senator Hershey's, I would move unfavorable on Senator Hershey's amendment.
We already asked for a favorable motion on that. We thought we were considering that. We don't.
Okay, we can kill that real fast.
Why don't we recognize Senator Hershey, because he did make.
Obviously, I've said several times, I hope that we would move this amendment. So, Madam Chair, I move that we accept this amendment.
Okay. All right, all in favor of the Hershey amendment, please raise your hand.
This is shocking.
Oh, come on.
They're not bought by the unions.
Okay, all opposed? Okay, and then I believe there's another amendment that we haven't heard.
No, that's not going to be on. That's not going to be
Second.
Okay. Okay, we've got a motion for the bill as amended and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you.
Before you go, to relieve some of the burden you have tonight for voting, there's a bill you're second on, and that is Senate Bill 883. This deals with out-of-state premium cigars and pipe tobacco. In 2019, you passed legislation that was enacted that were authorized the state to collect other tobacco product taxes and pipe tobacco taxes from out-of-state retailers. It turns out they've been collecting that money, but they haven't been able to remit it to the state. So what this bill does, and it passed budget and tax unanimously, is it creates a separate license, which is why you're second on it. It creates a separate license for these out-of-state retailers, so they can actually remit the taxes to Maryland. That's pretty much what this bill does, and you're second on it.
Okay, could we get a motion?
No, I just want to say that I listened to it. I worked with budget and tax to an extent, and so, but everybody was happy with it.
Okay, so,
There's no opposition to this bill.
okay, okay, is there any discussion on the motion? Senator Hayes?
It'd be favorable with an amendment. There were some technical amendments, so I think you have to do favorable with amendments.
I think it's fine with the favorable amendment. Do you have any idea how much they've been collecting as far as taxes on it?
Well, I don't think they've been collecting much because the retailers haven't been able to, the out-of-state retailers haven't been able to remit the amount, but I'm looking at the fiscal note here, and no, they just, it will increase revenues. Once they start remitting these other tobacco tax product revenues and pipe tobacco, the revenues will go up.
Right, but I thought you said that the retailers were collecting it, they just couldn't readmit it.
These are out-of-state retailers, yes. They were required to collect this in 2019.
Right.
But there's no mechanism, is my understanding, is why this bill is here, is there's no mechanism for them to actually remit the taxes to the comptroller. So this creates a mechanism for them to remit the revenue, the taxes they've been collecting to
And
the comptroller.
this also includes like internet sales.
Yes, internet, any
The tax
out-of-state retailer, by phone or internet, yes.
Okay, Senator Hershey.
Madam Chair, Dave, I understood the retailers and the cigar associations had asked for an amendment. Is that on here, what they asked for to get their support for this?
I've been reading about, and there was an amendment, there's no opposition. I don't think what the out-of-state guys actually wanted was in here, but there's no opposition to what B&T passed, and they withheld their opposition based on how this was progressed through B&T.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
Yes, favorable and seconded.
Okay, all in favor of the motion as amended, please raise your hand. Okay, it looks like is that unanimous? I'm not sure.
It doesn't create a tax now. All it does is create a way for the state to collect the taxes from out-of-state retailers.
This just creates a mechanism through which these out-of-state vendors can get their taxes to us in Maryland.
Who does the misdemeanor apply to if they violated for $1,000?
Are you asking the questions?
Yeah, and I really don't have any problem overall with the idea of the bill. I just hadn't had a chance to read, and it came up so fast, so I was trying to go through it. On page 9, there's a misdemeanor and conviction of $1,000 or imprisonment not exceeding 30 days. As going through it, I'm just trying to figure out who it applies. This just came really, really quick.
Well, you're not going to worry a lot about out-of-state vendors who are selling something that we tax them
Right,
on
but-
in Maryland who can't get the money to us.
Well, I'm not sure if it applied to an out-of-state vendor or somebody who may have purchased them from out-of-state and wanted to sell them here on the streets.
No,
and
this
what-
is
what
coming
implications it
directly
may
from
have.
the out-of-state vendor.
Okay. All right. I'll pass it until I get a chance to read it.
Okay. All right. So that passes. All right. Thanks so much, colleagues. See you at voting. Yeah.